Welcome back, third graders. For today's math lesson, you will need your whiteboard marker, a math journal, and your pencil. We are going to start with our whiteboards today, and for our brain warm-up, I want you to solve these problems in the orange box. Pause the video while you fill in your answers. Okay, you should have your answers filled in by now. If you don't, hit pause until they are ready to go. But for the answers today, 9 minus 7 is 2. 90 minus 70 is 20. 900 minus 700 is 200. And 7 plus 9 is 16. 70 plus 90 is 160. And 700 plus 900 is 1,600. And as you are working through those, I want you to look and see if there's any ways that they are related. Do you see any patterns with either the first column or the second column? If you're looking at the first one, you can see that there is a 2 in both. Just add different amounts of zeros each time. And I see in the second column the same thing is happening. Another way to think about these things is to think of like 90 is actually just 9 groups of tens, or 9 tens, and there's a couple different ways to write it. Same thing with when we get into hundreds, you can think of it like 700 is also 7 100s, 7 groups of 100. And also looking at these things, these are all fact extensions of a basic fact. So our basic facts in the orange box would be the first problem, the basic fact. And you see how the other ones are all extensions of that. They just keep adding zeros depending on if they're tens or hundreds. But the basic fact is used to help us solve bigger problems. They're called fact extensions because we are extending the numbers of the basic fact by adding zeros. Another word I want us to remember is the word multiple. And for our lesson today, we're talking about multiples of tens and 100s. And they are the products. And remember, products means that we are multiplying counting numbers and 10 or 100. So look at our example here. 90 is a multiple of 10 because 90 is 10 times 9. 9 is our counting number, so it is a multiple of 10. Same thing with the next one. 900 is a multiple of 100 because I multiply 100 by the counting number 9, and that gives me 900. So it is a multiple. We're going to practice this a little bit more. But first, I want us to look at these 3 equations. Which one is the basic fact? Six plus 8 is the basic fact. And what is the same about the add-ins in each problem? So the numbers we are adding. I see 8s in all of them. I also see 6s in the ones place in the first add-ins. Do you see anything in common with the sums, with the answers? If you saw 4s in all of the ones places in the answers, you're correct. What you can see here is how they build up on each other then. What I really have here is 2 groups of 10 in the second one. So looking here at 26 plus 8 equals 34, what I actually have here is 20 plus 6 plus 8. And since I already had 6 plus 8 up here, and that was 14, all I did was add the 20 to it, and if I add 20 to 14, I get 34. If I look at the bottom problem here, 46 plus 8 equals 54, what I also have here is 40 plus 6 plus 8, which can help you solve it faster as well. Let's look at another one. If 13 minus 5 is 8, what would 43 minus 5 be? And if you notice here, the difference here is this is 1 group of 10, this is 4 groups of 10. Notice again how all of them are subtracting 5 each time, and all of the first numbers have 3's in the ones place. I'm going to guess that my answer is going to have an 8 in the last place. If I'm looking at the first basic fact, this basic fact of 13 minus 5 is 8. What I did here is I increased from 1 group of 10 to 4 groups of 10. And that's a difference of 3 groups of 10. So it's 38. Let's look at 73 minus 5. Again, I'm guessing, since all of these seem to be related, that 8 is going to be the last digit. And what I did is I have 7 groups of 10 now. So going from 4 to 7, that's another 3 groups of 10. So I think my answer is going to be 68. So again, I'm looking for those patterns. Let's try another pattern. You have talked before in earlier grades about combinations of 10, where you put whole numbers together that add to 10. 2 numbers together that add to 10. So let's look at this basic fact right here. 3 plus what is 10? Hopefully you said 7. So, looking again, that these all have 3 in the ones place, and all of our answers are multiples of 10. They're counting numbers of 10. What do you think would go in each of these? 33 plus blank is 40. It's 7. What about 83 plus 90? It's 7. Using our basic fact of 3 plus 7 equals 10 can help you solve bigger equations using that basic fact. Let's look at a table here, because these are going to be some of the ones you see in your math journal later. If I put 4 in the machine and it changes to 10, how did it change? What happened? Think of that basic fact. Well, we added 6. So if I wanted to change from 64 to 70. What did I do there? I see that it seems to have a lot of the same problems or the same numbers in the basic fact. Well, it looks like it's the same, adding 6. Now let's look at the next group here. What happened if I put 80 in and I changed the number to 73? What happened? Did it get bigger or smaller? Well, 80 is bigger than 73, so it definitely got smaller, so I have to subtract. And again, think group of 10 minus something equals 73. Hopefully you said 7. And again, let's look at the last one. 640 goes in. I change the number to 632. What happened? Well, first, did it get bigger or smaller? It got smaller. But by how much? Well, for this one, let's look just at the tens and the ones. To change from 40 to 32, how much got taken away? 8 got taken away. We can also do this with bigger numbers, like 800 to 740. What happened? Did we get bigger or smaller? Well, 740 is less than 800, so we definitely got smaller. Think of it like hundreds, how it's closely related to tens. Think looking at the 80, think of it as 80 and 74, but with a 0 at the end. Well, the difference between 80 and 74 is 6, but then they have zeros at the end here, so I may have to make sure that there's a 0 in my answer. Let's look at the next one. 300 changes to 1,000. Well, did the number get bigger or smaller? It got bigger. But how much bigger? Well, again, if it helps, look at just the first few numbers. So in this case, you could think 3 and 10. What happened? 3 and 10. Well, how much do you add to 3 to make 10? 7. And then there are 2 more zeros to add to the answer. And the last one, changing 570 to 800, well, that number definitely got bigger. And again, think 57 and 80 if it's a little trickier to think of hundreds. Just don't forget to include that last 0 at the end. And the difference from 57 to 80 is 23. So 230 would be the answer. Now, I would like you to take a moment and turn to page 32 in your math journal. We're going to look over the directions for this page. So hit resume on this video when you're ready on page 32 in your math journal. Okay, friends, at the top of page 32, fill in the unit box that says complete the fact extensions. So let's look at number 1. It says 12 minus 7. What is 12 minus 7? Well, it's 5. That is the basic fact. So now, what is 120 minus 70? I can do that because I know what 12 minus 7 is. But since both of these numbers have a 0, I have to make sure my answer has a 0. I can do 1,200 minus 700 because I know 12 minus 7 is 5. and then there are 2 zeros after it. So that is what you are doing for these fact extensions in 1 through 4. And then in 5, you have to explain how you used a basic fact to help you solve problem 4. So write how you solved for problem 4. And this is where you have to look at what they have in common and look at what is slightly different. Let's look at the instructions for 6, 7, and 8. Add or subtract to complete these problems on your calculator. You may use a number grid or base 10 blocks. So again, same thing we were doing earlier. Think of it like these change machines, like a number goes in and another one comes out. What is happening each time? Don't forget to use pluses or minuses depending on if the number is getting bigger or smaller. And then number 8, what combination of 10 helped you to solve problem 6? Combinations of 10, remember, are pairs of numbers that go together to make 10. And then you also need to do page 33, which talks about finding elapsed time. This is continued practice from what we did in the last unit. So again, use your toolkit clock or an open number line. You can draw a number line out to help you solve these elapsed time problems. And then as always, there are math boxes on page 34 that you need to do.